You ever look back at a relationship and think, how the hell did I let that man get away with that? Yeah, that's where I'm at. Hi, my name's Francesca. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, like the video, and drop a comment below. It really helps out the channel and I love hearing from you. Thanks so much for watching. And this is the story of how my emotionally manipulative ex-boyfriend tried to blackmail me over a blue glow-in-the-dark bracelet, and how I finally said, never again. Let me take you back. Chase and I were together for 2 years. 2 long, confusing, exhausting years. The kind of relationship where you're constantly giving, hoping maybe, just maybe, they'll notice. They'll reciprocate. They'll show you love the way you show them love. But they never do. I remember birthdays coming and going. Nothing. No card, no dinner, no surprise. Just a half-assed, oh yeah, happy birthday. Meanwhile, I'm over here putting together thoughtful gifts, handmade things. Little packages filled with snacks and books and video games he mentioned once 6 months ago. Valentine's Day? Same story. Christmas? Don't even get me started. And look, I don't need diamonds. I don't need luxury. I just wanted to feel like I mattered. A keychain. A doodle. A playlist. Something. Anything that said, hey, I know you. I see you. But with Chase, I was invisible unless I was useful. Still, I stayed. Because when you love someone, and you're young and you don't know better, you think your love can fix them. Spoiler, it can't. But then came prom. He was homeschooled, but I invited him to my senior prom. I bought both of our tickets, $75 each. I paid for everything. My dress, my shoes, my nails, my makeup, even the gas to pick him up. And right before we left, he handed me a tiny box. Inside? A bracelet. Thin, cheap cord. Blue beads with tiny glow-in-the-dark specks. I remember my heart actually fluttered. Because after 2 years of nothing, this felt huge. It felt like he was finally trying. Finally showing up for me. I wore it that night like it was a diamond tennis bracelet. I was so proud of it. I showed it to everyone. I posted it. I thought finally he gets it. Fast forward 4 months later. I broke up with him. I won't get into all the reasons because honestly, that would take a whole separate video. But let's just say, emotional neglect, stonewalling, constant selfishness, and the fact that I felt more alone in the relationship than out of it. He didn't take it well. A few days after I ended things, I got a text. Not a sad, I miss you. Not a mature, can we talk? Nope. I got an all-caps rant demanding I send back the bracelet. The bracelet. The only gift he ever gave me in 2 years. And now, suddenly he wanted it back, like it was some kind of sacred family heirloom. At first, I was so shocked I said yes. I said I'd mail it. But then he sent another message, and this one chilled me to my bones. He told me very clearly that if I didn't send the bracelet back, he'd leak explicit photos of me that he had saved. Photos I had trusted him with when I was still in love. Photos that weren't supposed to leave his phone, ever. My stomach dropped. I remember holding my phone, staring at the screen, my hands shaking. Because in that moment, I realized this man, the boy I had loved, trusted, supported, was blackmailing me over a goddamn bracelet. And for a second, I was scared. I really was. But then something happened. It was like this calm, quiet anger settled in my chest. I remembered every birthday he forgot. Every time I cried alone. Every time I paid the bill. Every time he made me feel like loving me was a burden. And now he wanted his little $3 glow-in-the-dark bracelet back, or else he'd expose me. No fucking way. So I messaged him back. I said, you're not getting your damn bracelet back. I don't care how many threats you make. I don't owe you anything. And you know what I did next? I got my phone. I sat at my desk. I took that bracelet out of the little box I had kept it in, and I filmed myself cutting it. Snip. The beads bounced everywhere. Some rolled under the bed. One hit my foot. And I just sat there, watching it fall apart, feeling weirdly peaceful. Because I wasn't just cutting a bracelet. I was cutting the last string he had on me. I tossed the broken pieces in the trash, hit send, and told him, never contact me again. And just like that, I was free. There's a kind of silence that doesn't feel peaceful. It's not the quiet you get after a long day or the stillness of a room before sleep. It's the silence that comes right after you expect something awful to happen, and it just doesn't. That's what it was like after I cut the bracelet. After I filmed myself slicing the cheap, blue, glow-in-the-dark thing in half and watched the tiny beads scatter across my desk like dead bugs under fluorescent light, I waited. For something. A message. A threat. A post. A scream. A war. I waited for the explosion. But nothing came. Just silence. And in that silence, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long, long time. Power. Not the loud kind of power. Not the kind that roars or punches walls or screams into pillows. No. This was the kind of power that simmers. That spreads through your spine like warm honey. It doesn't need noise. It just is. For the first time since I met Chase, I felt like I had taken something back. Like I had pulled a thread loose from his grip, and the whole illusion was starting to unravel. But that power? It came with a twin. Guilt. Because even when someone treats you like garbage, there's a weird, twisted part of you that still wonders. Was I too harsh? Was destroying the bracelet too dramatic? What if he really is hurting and just doesn't know how to express it? I hated that those thoughts were even in my head. But they were. And they were loud. Because Chase didn't just manipulate me while we were dating. He trained my brain to second-guess my own pain. He trained me to doubt myself, to downplay his bad behavior, to apologize for his mistakes. So even now, after he threatened to leak private photos of me, there was still a little voice inside whispering, "Maybe you overreacted. Maybe you're the villain now." That voice was the ghost of the girl I used to be. And she wasn't dead yet. 2 days passed. I didn't hear from him. I checked my DMs like a lunatic. Checked Reddit. Snapchat. Even that dumb old Tumblr we both used to follow each other on. I kept bracing myself for the worst. But he never posted anything. Never sent the photos. Never said my name online. Which should have brought relief. But instead, it made me feel dirty. Because now I knew it wasn't about the bracelet. It was never about the bracelet. It was about control. He dangled fear over my head like a knife, just to see if I'd flinch. And I had. For a moment, I really thought he'd go through with it. I saw my future unraveling. Screenshots floating through school hallways, whispers behind my back, judgmental glances from people I barely knew. I saw myself shrinking into the background again, like I used to in high school, praying no one looked too close. But that future never came. And when it didn't, I got angry. Not just at him, but at myself. 3 days after I cut the bracelet, I finally got the message. I didn't mean it. I was just upset. I didn't think you'd actually destroy it. No apology. No ownership. No shame. Just a sad little line that screamed, "Oops, I lost control of her." He really thought I was going to send it back. That I'd beg him to forgive me. That I'd fall back into his orbit, like I always did. But that Francesca was gone. The girl who cried in her car because he ignored her texts all day. The girl who said, "It's okay, I understand," when he forgot her birthday. The girl who smiled through pain just to keep the peace. She didn't live here anymore. I didn't reply. I didn't even type a response and delete it, which, let's be honest, we all do sometimes just to feel the drama. I just opened the message. Read it. And felt nothing. That's when I knew I was really done. I blocked him. Everywhere. Phone. Gone. Instagram. Blocked. Snapchat. Vanished. Steam. Bye. Venmo. Blocked. Not that he ever paid me back for anything anyway. And then I did something I hadn't done in years. I took a long shower. The kind where you sit on the floor and let the hot water pound your back until your skin turns red and your soul feels scrubbed raw. And I cried. Not because I missed him, but because I was grieving the version of me that stayed. In the days that followed, everything felt off. My room was quieter. My phone buzzed less. My mind, once a constant chaos of "what does he think of me?" was empty. It was weird. Healing doesn't feel like fireworks. It feels like sitting in your room at 2 a.m. with a cup of tea, wondering if you're lonely or finally at peace. My friends noticed something was different. One of them, Amanda, pulled me aside at lunch one day and said, "You look lighter. Did something happen?" And I just smiled. Because yeah, something did happen. I cut the bracelet. But I also cut the cord that kept me tethered to a version of love that only knew how to take. And then one day something strange happened. I was cleaning out my jewelry box, sorting through tangled necklaces and forgotten earrings, when I found a single blue bead. Just one. Tiny. Faintly glowing. Stuck in the corner behind a dusty ring I never wore. I held it in my palm, staring at it. It looked harmless, but I knew better. That little glowing used to symbolize something sweet. A memory. A night. A boy who smiled at me like he meant it. But now, it was a warning. A reminder of what happens when you let someone else define your worth. I didn't cry. I didn't even flinch. I walked to the window, opened it, and flicked the bead into the wind. Watched it vanish. Watched him vanish. And then, I smiled. Because for the first time in 2 years, I wasn't scared. I was free. Freedom is weird. No one tells you that when you finally let go of someone toxic, your brain doesn't immediately get the memo. It keeps sending signals like, "Are you sure we're safe? Are we really done? Shouldn't we be anxious right now?" The first few weeks after I blocked Chase, it felt like detox. Like I had been living off poison and suddenly stopped, but the residue was still in my system. I'd walk past the coffee shop where we used to sit in silence, pretending to be close. I'd hear his name in random conversations and feel a jolt in my chest, like my heart had forgotten he wasn't allowed back in. Even songs. God. Every third song on my playlist used to have a Chase memory attached to it. But the thing about ghosts? They linger. Until you deal with them. I started journaling. It wasn't fancy. Just a beat-up spiral notebook I found in my closet with half the pages torn out. But I wrote. Every night. Sometimes it was one sentence. I didn't deserve that. Other nights, it was 4 pages of pure rage, scribbled until the pen bled through. And slowly, very slowly, my handwriting stopped shaking. I stopped checking my phone every 5 minutes. I stopped walking on eggshells around my own memories. I stopped hearing his voice in my head every time I tried to laugh too loud, or wear something bold, or take up space. It was like I was reclaiming the real estate of my own mind. And let me tell you, nothing's more rebellious than healing in a world that taught you to keep breaking. My friends noticed. Amanda was the first. She invited me to a party one weekend. Just a small thing. Backyard, string lights, someone's Spotify playlist on shuffle. It was the first time I'd been around that many people since the breakup. At first, I stayed near the food table, nervously peeling the label off a soda can, pretending I wasn't counting how many people looked in my direction. But then someone made a joke. Something dumb about astrology and bad exes. And I laughed. Really laughed. Not a polite giggle. Not a safe chuckle. A laugh that cracked open something inside me. And suddenly, I wasn't hiding anymore. I was just there. Alive. Present. Me. That night, something else happened. A guy named Milo struck up a conversation with me. I know sounds cliché. Rebound guy. Guy at the party. But no, this wasn't like that. He didn't flirt. He didn't compliment my looks. He asked what kind of books I liked. We talked about music. Podcasts. Our weird mutual hatred of tomatoes. At one point, I mentioned how I was learning to say no to things that didn't feel right anymore. And he didn't ask why. He just said, "That's a power move." That was it. A simple sentence. But it hit harder than he realized. Because Chase never celebrated my boundaries. He walked through them like wet paper. Milo didn't try to fix me. Or force anything. He just let me be. And for the first time in a long, long time, I felt safe. But of course, ghosts don't like to stay buried. Exactly 39 days after I blocked him, yes, I counted, Chase found a way back in. He emailed me. The subject line? Closure. My heart stopped. I wish I could say I ignored it. That I rolled my eyes and deleted it without reading. But I didn't. I clicked. And suddenly, all that calm, all that healing, all that quiet strength, it cracked. The email was long. Way longer than it needed to be. He talked about reflection. Said he had been in therapy. Said he realized the mistakes he made. That he hoped I could forgive him. And then, at the very bottom, he wrote, "If you still have any part of that bracelet left, I'd like to keep it. For the memories. The nerve. Not, I regret threatening you. Not, I'm sorry for making you feel unsafe. Just another breadcrumb of manipulation wrapped in fake sentimentality." He didn't want the bracelet. He wanted a reaction. And for a moment, just a flicker, I almost gave it to him. I almost typed a reply. Something cold. Something witty. Something that would make me feel powerful again. But then I remembered the blue bead. The one I found weeks ago and tossed into the wind like a curse lifted. He had no right to ask for anything. Not my time. Not my words. Not my energy. Especially not the pieces of something he had already shattered. So I didn't reply. I deleted the email. Then I blocked him there too. And this time, there was no silence. There was music. My own playlist. One I had made just for me. Full of songs Chase would have hated. Full of things that felt like mine. And as I danced around my room that night, alone, barefoot, free, I realized something. Healing doesn't always feel triumphant. It doesn't come with medals or applause. Sometimes it's just not replying to a message you used to live for. Sometimes it's choosing yourself quietly, over and over, until one day you don't have to choose anymore, because you're already home. You know what no one tells you about walking away from a toxic ex? They don't always chase you with rage. Sometimes they try to haunt you with a smile. It started with a screenshot. Amanda sent it to me one night while I was washing dishes, earbuds in, halfway through a true crime podcast and thinking about literally anything except Chase. Her message just said, what the fuck is this? I dried my hands, opened the message, and there it was. A post on someone's Instagram story. Not even someone I was close with, just one of those mutuals you keep out of politeness. And it said, "Some people throw away real love because they can't handle healing. Just remember who the villain really was." Blackheart broken heart locked #closure hurts #protect your energy. And under that, a blurry black and white photo of a bracelet. My bracelet. The glow-in-the-dark one. Still cut in half. Still scattered. But this time, the caption twisted it. Like he was the one who had been hurt. Like he was the victim. My blood ran cold. Because it was subtle. Just vague enough that only people who knew would recognize it. But I knew. Amanda knew. And Chase knew exactly what he was doing. He couldn't reach me directly anymore. I blocked him everywhere. So now, he was working through shadows. Through whispers. Through curated pity. It was genius in a sick way. He didn't need to message me. He just had to make sure I heard him anyway. A few days later, another friend, Liana, sent me a TikTok. It was Chase. A soft-spoken, black and white filter, piano music in the background, eyes downcast like a grieving poet. He was talking about letting go of toxic women and the pain of betrayal and forgiveness without apology. The comments, filled with girls. "You're so strong for being vulnerable. She didn't deserve you. Men like you are rare." I wanted to scream. Because that's what they do, isn't it? Men like Chase don't just hurt you. They rewrite the story afterward. They make you the villain in their fairy tale. And the world eats it up. For a moment, I felt small again. Like I was back in that room, phone in hand, staring at the message where he threatened to leak my nudes over a bracelet. But then, something in me snapped. Because I was done playing defense. It was time to go on offense. I didn't start a war. Not yet. But I made some quiet moves. I screenshot everything. Every post. Every story. Every message he sent to mutual friends trying to check in on me. I emailed myself copies. Timestamped, organized. Just in case. Then I reached out to the girls who were engaging with his content. Not to argue. Not to beg. Just to ask a question. "Hey, just wondering, did he tell you why we broke up?" Some didn't reply. A few blocked me, which was telling on its own. But two of them, too, messaged me back. And what they said, it floored me. He said you cheated on him, that you manipulated him, that you took advantage of his trauma and threw him away. I nearly laughed. Because that would be hilarious if it wasn't so dangerous. Reputation is fragile. Even in 2025, when we talk about believe women and trauma-informed spaces, all it takes is one smooth-talking liar with a sad boy aesthetic and a TikTok filter to undo years of truth. And Chase? He knew how to play the game. He wasn't throwing tantrums anymore. He was playing chess, positioning himself as the wounded poet, the misunderstood lover, the guy who just wanted to be enough. Meanwhile, I was cast as the cold, cruel ex, the one who cut the bracelet and his heart. I could have gone public. I could have exposed him. I could have uploaded every receipt I had, the threats, the manipulation, the photos he used as weapons. But something held me back. And honestly, it wasn't fear. It was strategy. Because now I was the one holding the pieces. Instead of clapping back, I stayed quiet, but intentional. I unfollowed every mutual, tightened my circle, private my accounts, and I focused on real life. Because that's the thing about people like Chase. They live in mirrors, in projections, in carefully crafted illusions. But I live in reality now, with friends who know the truth, with a mind that finally trusts itself, with a future he doesn't get to infect. Still, I'd be lying if I said it didn't hurt. Sometimes I'd see someone repost his TikToks and wonder how many of them believe him, how many girls will fall for it the way I once did. But then I remember, they're not my responsibility. I am. And one night, this part might sound small, but it meant everything to me. Amanda and I were sitting on her porch, sipping wine out of mugs, just talking about life, boys, boundaries, you name it. And she said, "You know what I love about you now?" I looked at her. "What?" "You're dangerous now." I laughed. "What do you mean?" "I mean, you know your worth now. That makes you dangerous to guys like him. And powerful to the rest of us." I didn't say anything, but I felt it. Right there, under my skin, humming steady alive. Some predators don't snarl. They smile. They shake hands. They wear hoodies that smell like eucalyptus and sadness. And when cornered, they don't attack. They manipulate the room. That's exactly what Chase tried to do. I thought I was done with him. After the Instagram stories, the vague subtweets, the piano-filtered TikToks of him pretending to be a ghost haunted by my cruelty. I thought that was it. But monsters rarely go quietly. One day, out of nowhere, I got a text from someone I didn't recognize. "Hey, you don't know me, but I go to your school. Can I ask you something?" My stomach turned. I replied cautiously, "Depends what you're asking." They sent a screenshot. It was a message from Chase, sent to them. Apparently, he'd started reaching out to people from my college's student groups, mental health clubs, feminist discussion circles, even our on-campus podcast network. He told them he was trying to share his story, that he'd been abused emotionally by a narcissistic ex who was popular in activist circles. He never used my name, but dropped just enough clues for anyone nearby to connect the dots. The message ended with, "I just want to protect other guys from being manipulated by women like her." Protect. That word again. Weaponized compassion, masquerading as concern. And it worked, briefly. I lost 2 podcast gigs. One of my professors, a young cool feminist guy with a Twitter following and a nose ring, suddenly stopped replying to my emails. Even Amanda said she overheard someone in the art building say, "I heard Francesca is kinda toxic, honestly." It was working. His final form wasn't rage or revenge. It was influence. But here's the thing about liars. They always go one lie too far. I got another message. This time from someone named Joy, the president of a small mental health collective I had applied to intern with. She wrote, "Hey, I just wanted to say, I got a DM from someone who claims you emotionally abused him. He didn't name you, but, well, the dates and stories line up." She paused, then added, "But I didn't believe him. Something felt off. So I asked around. And girl, people talk. Can you come meet with us?" So I did. But not as a victim. I walked into that meeting with a flash drive, a binder, and a calm I had never known before. Inside the binder? Screenshots. of Chase threatening me with explicit photos, of him demanding the bracelet back, followed by emotional blackmail, of the long manipulative emails, of TikToks, posts, DMs, all time-stamped, all dated. I presented my case like a prosecutor in a courtroom where no one could interrupt me. And when I was done, silence. Until Joy said, "Would you be willing to share this publicly?" I hesitated, because I hadn't told my family everything. Because some of those screenshots made me feel ashamed, even though I had nothing to be ashamed of. But then Joy said, "You don't have to. But I just want you to know, if you do, we've got your back." And in that moment, I realized something. Chase had spent months trying to isolate me, to twist the narrative, to turn a whole ecosystem of mutuals, strangers, and friends against me with smoke and mirrors. But now, I wasn't in his funhouse anymore. I was in a room full of mirrors I controlled. So I said yes. The next day, I posted a thread. Not a rant. Not a takedown. Just the truth. Screenshots. Receipts. A timeline. I didn't name him. Didn't call for cancellation. Didn't scream. I just told the story. And the response? Explosive. Other girls started messaging me. Not just strangers. Girls he had met, flirted with, tried to warn about me. One girl told me he used the same exact story on her. Same phrasing, same protect guys from toxic women nonsense. It was like finding out you weren't his only ghost story. You were just chapter 1. Within a week, his TikToks were flooded with comments. "Oh, so you're that guy. Your ex posted the receipts. Sit down. This isn't healing. This is manipulation." He private everything. Deleted his Instagram. Tried to resurface under a different username. But the spell was broken. The smile no longer worked. Because now, everyone had seen the teeth underneath. But the real moment, the one that truly set me free, it wasn't the online support. Or the campus gossip flipping sides. It wasn't even Chase's silence afterward. It was me 1 week later, sitting on a park bench, phone off, binder gone, sunlight on my face, and realizing I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't scared. I wasn't waiting for the next blow. Because this time, I delivered it. Not with violence. Not with vengeance. But with truth. And truth has teeth too. Some silences don't just fall around you. They settle deep inside your chest, like a tide that pulls and pulls until it carries you somewhere new. When I cut that bracelet, I thought it was an ending. A final snap that would close a chapter. But it wasn't. It was a beginning. I spent so long living in the shadows of what could have been. The promises never kept. The love never shown. The words left unsaid. There were days I woke up wishing I could rewind. Wish I could have stayed silent. Wish I could have swallowed the pain. But silence is a dangerous friend. It doesn't heal wounds. It buries them. And buried wounds rot in the dark. I learned that the hard way. I remember the nights I cried alone in my room. The kind of crying that leaves your body raw, your soul trembling. I remember looking in the mirror and barely recognizing the person staring back. Eyes dull. Smile forced. Shoulders slumped under invisible weight. That girl? She needed saving. But no one was coming. So I became my own rescue. It didn't happen overnight. Healing never does. It's messy. It's slow. It's waking up some mornings and feeling like you might drown, and still deciding to breathe anyway. It's saying no to people who don't deserve your yes. It's learning to trust yourself when the world tried to convince you otherwise. It's letting go of the stories that told you you weren't enough. Sometimes, I still feel the pull of old habits. The part of me that wants to check my phone just one more time. The part that hears his name in a song and flinches. The part that wonders if maybe, just maybe, I was too harsh. But then I remind her, no, you were not too harsh. You were brave. I carry the scars, not as badges of shame, but as maps. Maps that show me where I've been, and how far I've come. I carry the lessons. How to recognize love that lifts me up, not tears me down. How to set boundaries that don't apologize for existing. How to speak my truth even when my voice shakes. And most of all, I carry hope. Hope that the next chapter won't be written by fear. Hope that my story, my real story, will be told in light. Hope that every girl who finds a broken bracelet in her hands will know she has the power to throw it away. Freedom isn't a moment. It's a series of moments. Small victories. Quiet triumphs. It's waking up and choosing yourself again. And again. And again. I look around this cafe now. People laughing. Typing. Living their own stories. And I feel peaceful. Because I belong here. Not as someone haunted by her past, but as someone who owned her story. If you're listening, really listening to this, you're not alone. You're stronger than you think. And your silence? It's not empty. It's filled with everything you need to start over. So I take a deep breath, sip my coffee, and smile. Because this silence, this final silence, it's mine. And it's beautiful.